day, everyone. I am Natasha Kemanche, and my topic is all about the chapter 9, which is the literary masterpieces of Dr. Jose Rizal. Here are the objectives. At the end of the chapter, the student should be able to A. Define Philippine history in your own understanding. B. State the reasons of Dr. Jose Rizal in making his annotations. C. Discuss Morga's points of view about the colonizers. D. Reason out if the Philippines would be a Spanish colony or not. E. Drew a brief parallel between the political situation then and the situation at present. Organize a debate on the advantages or disadvantages of the century being denied representation in the courts, and form a round-table discussion on the writing of Dr. Jose Rizal's influences on the youth of today. Dr. Jose Rizal was a young doctor, writer, and the most outstanding member of the propaganda movement. He was born in 1861 to a prosperous Chinese mestizo family from the province of Laguna. So the text provides a brief biographical sketch of Dr. Jose Rizal, highlighting his roots in the propaganda movement and his family background. So it emphasizes his status or a prominent figure, a young doctor and writer, born into a wealthy Chinese mestizo family in Laguna. So, he began to learn how to read and write at the age of 2 and grew up with a knowledge of 20 languages, including Latin, Greek, German, French, and Chinese. So, as a brilliant individual with respect to his country, in his last letter, which is Mi Ultimo Adios, he mentioned that the Philippines is a pearl of the Orient Seas, as the described name of the Philippine island, which was originated from the idea of the Spanish Jesuit missionary Father Juan G. Delgado in 1751. So his love for his country gave him an itch to write and criticize the Spanish government in his two novels, drums up the sentiments of the oppressed but called for peaceful reform under colonial rulers. The publicized two novels are No Limit Tangere, Touch Me Not in 1860, in 1886, and the El Filibusterismo, The Reign of Greed. So the text details results exceptional linguistic abilities, learning to read and write at age 2, and mastering 20 languages, and his patriotic sentiments expressed in his final letter, which is Mi Ultimo Adios, where he refers to the Philippines as the pearl of the Orient Seas. So it also highlights his use of his novels to criticize the Spanish government, stirring the sentiment of the oppressed while advocating for peaceful reform. He was arrested and executed in 1896 at age 30, sparking a revolt. His close friends honored him as a national hero, such as Professor Ferdinand Blumentritt considered Rizal the Philippines' greatest product, comparing his arrival in the role fish to the appearance of a rare comet. Dr. Adolf Meyer described Rizal as having a stupendous multifaceted talent. Senator Camilo Ushas called Rizal a versatile genius. Several prominent figures, including Professor Blumentritt, Dr. Meyer, and Senator Ushas, lauded Rizal's exceptional abilities and significant contributions, describing him as a rare genius and a remarkable individual whose influence transcended generations. So every Filipino should know his absolute contribution to our country, and he dreamt that every Filipino in his country has an equal playing field. a master of his own country and a cultivator of good deeds. So it is crucial for every Filipino to acknowledge Rizal's immense contributions to the nation, as he envisioned a country where everyone has equal opportunities and is a force for good. So Rizal's literary works powerfully oppose the injustice inflicted by the Spanish, aiming to inspire his countrymen towards positive change. His writings serve as a testament to the power of the pen. So we round up his best works and uncover the underlying meaning behind his literatures as follows. First, to the Filipino youth. At age 18, Rizal wrote A La Juventud Filipina, a poem emphasizing the youth roles as the nation's hope, which he submitted to a contest. He won first prize, receiving a feather ship, silver pin, and diploma. The poem's main message was to inspire Filipino youth, convincing them that they are the hope of the nation and urging them to work towards a better future for the Philippines. So second, Goodbye to Leonor. So Goodbye to Leonor reflects Rizal's heartbreak over his lost love, Leonor Rivera, whose parents disapproved of their relationship and who later married another man. So the poem expresses the melancholic feelings resulting from this separation and the end of their romance. And the third one is The Young Woman of Malulus. So Rizal's letter to young women of Malulus highlights the values and roots of Filipino women and society, addressing mothers, wives, and single women. So he emphasizes the qualities a wife should have, her duties to husband and children, and advice on choosing a life partner. Fourth is Candyman. While traditionally a love song, Rizal used the Candyman form to express his deep love for the Philippines. His Candyman reflects his fervent hope for a future free from oppression and injustice. So the fifth one is Junto al Pasig. So Rizal's one-act play, Junto al Pasig or Beside the Pasig River, written in Spanish at the request of Jesus, was performed during a festival. The play's story, about a young Filipino's strong faith, explores themes of Christianity versus paganism and the Spanish oppression of Filipinos. So next, No Limit Tangiri. No Limit Tangiri or Touch Me Not is a highly significant Filipino novel that exposes the suffering of Filipinos under Spanish colonial rule. Despite attempts by the Spanish to suppress it, the novel's powerful message about the injustice of colonialism ensured its widespread impact. So the seventh one is El Filibusterismo. So El Filibusterismo, a sequel to No Limit Tangiri, depicts the dark realities of Philippine society and a protagonist-filled attempts at reform. So Rizal dedicated his novel to Gamborza, three Filipino priests executed for subversion. So, and the last one is Mi Ultimo Adios, or My Last Farewell, is Rizal's final poem, a farewell to his homeland and countrymen. So there are varying accounts of when it was written, some saying it was just before his execution on December 30, 1896. So next, contemporary literature in the Philippines during and after propagandist era. So Antonio Abad in 1894 to 1970 was one of the leading contributors of Phil-Hispanic literature during his time. His writings were in the native language, Cebuano and Spanish, frequently referred as the greatest Hispanic Filipino novelist after Rizal. So his works Il Ultimo Romantico in 1928 Premio Nobel, La Ovija de Nathan 1929, El Campeón 1940 Philippine Commonwealth Award, and La Vida Secreta de Daniel Espina in 1960. Susican Father Francisco Ignacio Alsina is G in 1610 to 1674. So Francisco Alsina is a parish priest in the Visayan island for 37 years. Most of the years of Alsina were spent among the natives whom he used to call my beloved Visayan. So his work, Historia Natural del Sitio Fertilidad y Calidad de las Islas y Indios de Visayas, or Alsina's History of the Visayan Islands in 1668. So third, Rosario Almario in 1886 to 1933. So Rosario was an editor of Pagkakaisa, a daily newspaper. Among his works as a writer was the Tagalog language essay. Ano ang ligaya sa ibabaw ng lupa, or in English, what is happiness on the surface of the earth, written in 1907. The award-winning Spanish language essay Qui es Pueblo, or What is Town? So his novels, Pinatatawad Kita, You Are Forgiven in 1910, Ang Mananayaw, The Dancer in 1910, Mga Anak Bukid or Children of the Farmlands in 1911, Mga Dahong Laksa, Driving Leaves in 1912, and Nang si Iba ay Likain, when F was created in 1913.
And that's all for my part, and the next part will be discussed by Miss Vigorthi. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is the continuation of Chapter 9. Number 4, Luwalhati Bautista. Luwalhati Bautista is one of the foremost female novelists in the contemporary literature. Born on December 2, 1945, at the age of 74 years old, kinaya siya bilang author, novelista, aktivista, and kritiko. And her novel include Dekada 70, Bata-Bata, Paano Ka Ginawa, and Child-Child, How Were You Made? And Olonga po, short name for Gapo, Olonga po. Carlos Paranca Memorial Awards for Literature and the Sariang Wikang Pambansa in Flower and City Jail in 1984. Kung mabawi man ang ulap, The Clouds Are Parted, 1984, Six Object, 1985. For screenplay writing, she received recognition from Metro Manila Film Festival, Best Story, Best Screenplay, Film Academy Awards, tatlong kwento ng buhay ni Julian Candelabra, Three Stories in the Life of Julian Candelabra, and first prize in 1982. And also, Buwan Buwan Hulugan Mo Ako ng Sundang, Moon Moon Drop Me a Sword, is a third prize in 1983. Bautista also authored the television dramas The Gasot Timba ng Tubig, The Mouse and the Bucket of Water in 1975, ang isang kabanata sa libro ng buhay ni Lailani Cruzaldo, a chapter in the Book of Life of Lailani Cruzaldo in 1987. She was the only Filipino included a book on foremost and international women writers published in Japan in 1991. So next, Nick Joaquin, number 5. Nick Joaquin and his father was a Colonel Leocadio under supervision of General Emilio Aguinaldo during 1896 Revolution. And his mother is a teacher, Salome Marquez, who taught English and Spanish. And after Revolution, his father was practicing as a lawyer. So Nick Joaquin, at the age of 17, he published his fiction of the pre-World War II. Joaquin deeply admired Dr. Jose Rizal, our national hero of the Philippines. He translated the hero's valedictory poem in the original Spanish, Mi Último Adiós, into English as Land That I Love Very Well. Nick Joaquin is a Filipino renowned writer and journalist. As a proof of his administration, he paid tribute. he honor for Dr. Jose Rizal on the following. Number 1. The Storyteller's New Medium Rizal in Saga. This book, authored by Nick Joaquin, is a biography of Dr. Jose Rizal aimed at a younger audience. This book presents a humanized view of Rizal. Number 2. The Complete Poems and Plays of Jose Rizal. This poem, translated by Nick Joaquin, is a collection of the poems and plays written by Jose Rizal. Number 3. A Question of Heroes Essay and Criticism on 10K Figure of Philippine History. So, 10K Figure of Philippine History. In this collection of essay, Nick Joaquin critically examines the lives of contribution of 10 significant figures in Philippine history, including Jose Rizal. This essay provides fresh perspective on these heroes, analyzing their roles in the Philippines Revolutionary and the complexities of their legacies. Joaquin's work encouraged readers to rethink the narratives surrounding these historical figures and their impact on Philippine society. Next is number 6, Helda Olvidado. Si Helda Olvidado was a popular Filipino novelist and writer. Known for her extraordinary love stories, she became famous during 1970s with her remarkable novels. So, Helda Olvidado is a prominent Filipino novelist and writer celebrated for her compelling love stories. She gained fame in 1970 with her remarkable novels, which often featured melodramatic themes and relatable characters. Her works were widely published in Philippine comics, later adapted into films and television and series, solidifying her reputation in the literary and entertainment industries. Olvidado's storytelling style resonates with readers, making her one of the notable figures in Filipino literature. Gilda Olvidado, she wrote, "Sinasamba kita o I worship you, babangon ako't dudurugin kita, Sweet Revenge." She also wrote screenplay that later turned into blockbusters such as Saan Nagtatago ang Pag-ibig, Where is Love Hiding, which made her na rise into popularity after the Filipino Academy of Movie Arts and Science recognized it as the best story. Number 7. Louis Mar Gangcuangco. Louis Mar Gangcuangco, he published his debut novel entitled Orasan Nakpil Malati. At the age of 18, the novel illustrates of the pink culture in the street of Orasa. So the novel, published when Gangcuangco was only 18 years old, explores the pink culture prevalent in the streets of Orasa and Nakpil, known as the hub for gay Filipino culture. The novel's success was immediate, becoming a bestseller within months of its release. In August 2006, Gangcuangco received the Y Idol Award, Youth Idol Award, a testament to his popularity among young Filipinos. His novel was endorsed by prominent figures in Philippine society, including the renowned director Jose Javier, Joey Reyes, former DOH Secretary Dr. Jaime Galvezan, and Dr. Raul Distora of the National Institute of Health Philippines. Number 8. Mars Ravello. Mars Ravello was a comic strip creator and writer who became phenomenal in the Philippines for his created superheroes such as Darna, a Philippine version of Wonder Woman, Jezebel, name of the Filipino mermaid, heroine, and many others. During the 1960s, the 1980s, Ravello was also the highest paid comic writer during his time. So Mars Ravello is the best known for creating Darna, Filipino version of Wonder Woman, and Jezebel, a mermaid heroine. This character, along with many others, captured the imagination of Filipinos during the 1960s to 1980s. Ravello's work scented the page of comic book, inspiring numerous films, television series, and even songs. Ravelo's talent and popularity made him the highest paid comic writer in the Philippines during his time. Number 9, Carlo G. Caparas. Carlo G. Caparas was a highly influential Filipino comic strip creator, writer, director, and producer. Celebrated for his creation of popular Filipino superheroes and comic book characters, including Panday and many more. As a producer and director, Carlo G. Caparas, he received the National Artist Award granted by the Philippines. The influence of Dr. Jose Rizal, and he believed that the power of the mind is very important expressing one's feelings. Next, Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas tackled the history of the island Philippines. The history covered 1493 to 1670, from the first datus to king colonizer of the discovery of the island from 1565. So, Event of the Philippine Island is a historical account covering period from 1493 to 1630. It details the history of the Philippines. It described the pre-colonial societies and the political structure existing before the arrival of the Spaniards. The book highlights the significant role of Chinese trade in the island's economy, and it documents the interests of other foreign powers, including Japan's ambitions for colonization and the Portuguese. Next, Dr. Jose Rizal Annotation to Morga's 1909 Philippine History. From Dr. Jose Rizal Annotation to Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, a 1609 historical account of the Philippines. Rizal, a Filipino nationalist and writer, critically examined Morga's work, exposing inaccurate and biases in the Spanish perspective of Philippine history. The excerpt you provided highlight Rizal critique to Morga's portrayal of Spanish colonialism and his spread of Catholicism. Rizal challenges the notion that the Spanish monarchy was solely responsible for spreading Catholicism, and arguing that other nations and individuals contribute to its dissemination, and he also points out that the conversion of Filipinos to Christianity was not as widespread as Spanish historians claim. Next, this era and almost all of us brought of ignorance of our country's past history. So this during a certain era highlighted the significance of Antonio de Morga's work. Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas is the first published history of the Philippines. It also mentioned Father Sereno works, which considered more a missionary chronicle than a comprehensive history. The lack of knowledge about Philippine history affected all Filipinos, including those in the Visayas. Morga's work, while biased from a Spanish perspective, provided a starting point for understanding the past, which included the history of and the experience of the Visayan people. Therefore, the significance of Morga's work and Rizal later annotation correction its bias. Indeed, the Visaya population, however, is nothing in the implication are relevant to the Visayan people. Dr. Jose Rizal made clarification of the observation made by Dr. Morga in his manuscript. So, Dr. Jose Rizal, in his annotation to Antonio de Morga's Successor de las Islas, challenged Morga's biased portrayal of Spanish colonialism and his spread Catholicism. So, number 1, Christian religion. Dr. Morga appears to commented on the Roman Catholic, which by fire and sword he would preserve in its purity in the Philippines. So Morga seemed to believe that the Roman Catholic Church should be preserved in the Philippines by force using fire and sword. Number 2, kingdoms were indeed discovered and conquered in the remote and unknown parts of the world by Spanish ships, but the Spaniards who sailed in them may add Portuguese, Italian, French, Greeks, and even Africans and Polynesians. So Morgan stated that Spanish ships discovered and conquered kingdoms in remote parts of the world, implying that Spaniards where the soul explores. Rizal corrected this by noting that many nationalities were involved in these expeditions, including Portuguese, Italians, French, Greek, and Africans and Polynesians. He emphasized that even the expedition led by Columbus and Magellan. Next, number 3. 3 centuries ago, it was the custom to write intolerantly as Margadas. But nowadays, it would be called a bit presumption. No one has monopoly of the true God. So, 3 centuries ago, referring to Marga's time, it was common right common for writers to be intolerant and biased. As Morga was, however, in Rizal's time, such writing would be considered arrogant and presumptuous. There is no single group or nation that has a sole claim to the true God. Number 4. The conversions by the Spaniards were not as general as their historian claim. In the southern island, and the Greatos Igorots and other Heltens yet occupy the greater part territorially of the archipelago. So the Spaniards' conversion of Filipinos Christianity was widespread as Spanish historians claim. In Southern Ireland and among the Negritos, Igorots, and other groups, many remained unconverted, indicating that a significant portion of the archipelago remained non-Christian. Next, number 5. It is not the fact that Filipino were unprotected before the coming of the Spaniards. Morga himself says, further on the telling of the pirate trades from the south that previous to the Spanish domination, the island had arms and defended themselves. So it is not true that Filipinos were defenseless before the Spanish arrived. Morga himself mentions raids and attack from southern pirates, showing that Filipinos had their own weapons and defense system before Spanish colonization. The Filipinos were not a passive people awaiting conquest. Rizal points Eric Morga's bias and incomplete defection of pre-colonial Philippines society. Rizal emphasized the diversity of Filipino culture and resilience of the Filipinos in the face of Spanish colonization. These points are crucial for understanding a more accurate and once portrayed Philippine history. Next, number 6. The island came under Spanish sovereignty and controlled through compact treaties of friendship and alliance for reciprocity. According to some historians, Magellan lost his life in Mactan. So the Philippines came under Spanish rule through agreements, treaties of friendship, an alliance suggesting a more peaceful and mutually beneficial process. Magellan death in Mactan, a battle that highlight the violent resistance faced by the Spaniards. Next, number 9. Morga shows that ancient Filipino had an army and navy. So, Morga's work reveals that pre-colonial Filipino possessed a well-equipped army and navy, including artillery and other weapons. This contradicts the Spanish portrayal of Filipinos as weak and unprepared for conquest. Number 10. Morga's expression that Spaniards brought war to the gates of the Filipino is in marked contrast with the word used by subsequent. So, Morga described the Spanish arrival as bringing war to the gates of the Filipino, acknowledging the Spanish aggression. However, later aggression, Spanish historians often use the term pacification to describe their actions, minimizing the violence and resistance. They encountered results suggest that making peace in this context meant stirring, stirring up war, exposing the hypocrisy and the Spanish narrative. Rizal also point out that Magellan claims to the King of Spain about the Moluccas being within Spanish territory were inaccurate. This highlights the Spanish ambition and how they use false pretense to justify their colonization. Cebu, which Morga calls the city of the most holy name of Jesus, was at first called the village of San Miguel. So when Spanish explorer Miguel Lopez de Legazpi arrived in the Philippines in 1565, he and his expedition landed on the island of Cebu. Upon their arrival, they established a settlement and named it Villa de San Miguel. Villa of Saint Michael in honor of Saint Michael the Archangel, as it was the customary for the Spanish name of new settlement after cents, especially ones related to important events or dates. Later, this village was renamed the Ciudad del Santísimo Nombre de Jesús, city of the most holy name of Jesus. This change was in honor of the Holy Child Jesus Santo Niño, whose image was found in Born Hut during the expedition. This image, believed to have been left by the earlier expedition of Ferdinand Magellan in 1521, was seen as miraculous and deeply symbolic of the Spaniards. Antonio de Morga, a Spanish official and historian who wrote Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas in 1609, referred to Cebu using its neo-name, the city of most holy name of Jesus, recognizing its religious. Next, number 12. The expedition of Villalobos, intermediate between Magellan and Legazpi, gave the name Pilipinia. The name Pilipinia was first given to the island of Tindaya o Siblay by the Villalobos expedition, which took place between Magellan's and Legazpi voyage. This name was later extended to the entire archipelago. This shows how the Spanish gradually asserted their control. Next, number 13. The native Manila rulers at the coming of the Spaniards. Raja Sulaiman was called Rahang Mura or Young King, distinction from the old king Rahang Matanda, which take hardwood kosak as Tagalog. His further house is called Harigis or Haligi. Rizal highlights the distinction between the Raja Sulaiman known as Rahang Mura Young King and the older ruler Rahang Matanda. This distinction is important for understanding the political landscape of Manila at that time of Spanish arrival. The text also mentions the Harigis and Haligi posts used in Tagalog houses, offering a glimpse into the traditional architecture of the time. Next, number 14. Vegas evidently confused the Pacific coming of Legazpi with the attack of Goiti and Salcido. As to the date, according to other historians, it was in 1570 that Manila was born. So, Rizal point out that Marga seems to have mixed up the dates of Legazpi peaceful arrival, the attack of Goiti, and Salcedo. In 1570, during Legazpi's arrival, this highlighted inconsistencies in historical accounts and emphasized the need for careful analysis of different sources. In 1844, when the 31st of December was by special arrangement among authorities dropped from the calendar for that year. Accordingly, Legazpi did not arrive from Manila on the 19th, but on the 20th May. Consequently, it was not on the festival of Santa Potenciana but San Boydilos Day, reference to the other early. So, this annotation provide a glimpse into a complex and often contradictory narrative surrounding the Spanish colonization of the Philippines. Importance examining historical accounts and seeking out multiple perspectives to gain a more complete understanding in the past.